goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana
Welcome to the RDC meeting. Will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we please do the roll call?
Commissioner Lack,
Here.
Commissioner Ambler,
Here.
Commissioner Josviak,
Here.
Commissioner Munt is absent, Mayor Bonta,
Here.
Commissioner Vasquez.
Did you guys have a chance to look at the minutes from August 22nd? And is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did everyone have a chance to take a look at the claims? And were there any questions on the claims?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We'll move on to staff reports. Mr. Bowditch?
Staff report for this afternoon is I do have Commissioner Lack had asked that I put together a summary of the expenses in the general fund, and I'll hand those out to you. I don't need to go over it, other than I just wanted to make sure everybody had a copy of it, and I'll email it to you also. Reminder, this is just the general fund, not the allocation fund. So through the information today, I just want to go through it with you real quickly, is the overall general fund budget was $1,056,600. To date, you've expended $705,000, or about 66%. So you're 2/3 of the way through the year, and you're right where you should be. So we looked at that. We will put together a one for the allocation fund, and I've requested the information from the clerk treasurer for the revenues that have been received to date, and we'll go through and get all that information for you. On October 15th, correct, Sonia, there is the work session on the budget, or that's the educational session. That'll be the educational grant session that's been scheduled. We'll be prepared for that, to go through that with the Portage Township Schools and any other educational services that, or educational institutions that are available, to go through the grant process that you have approved and describe how that would be completed for next year. I've been putting together the information for for both, let me get my notes out here, for the home TIFs for Barrow and Carlson Farms, the putting together the residential housing development programs for consideration at the next meeting. So at the commission's next meeting, we will work with Sonia to schedule a public notice. By statute, you have to have one meeting with the residents who are impacted or affected. So we'll put that information all together. We'll put a notice in the paper and get that all ready for next Redevelopment Commission meeting so we can get those two areas started. And then in the December meeting, there will be another public meeting, at which time fiscal officers of the overlapping taxing units and the Portage Township assessor are asked to be at that meeting, as well as any impacted. We'll also invite the impacted property owners of each of those parcels for development. So that is moving forward. The Irving, I got the educational. On the agenda today was the HVAC for the fire station. We'll get to that. That's about it for me right now. Otherwise, everything else is on the agenda.
Thank you so much.
Any questions of staff? I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Any questions?
No.
So then I think we'll jump to the HVAC for the fire station. I wasn't sure, Dan, if that was just you speaking on that, or if that was did you need the chief for that?
Well, we could bring up the chief for that. Basically, as a quick overview, the fire department, serving as a public safety entity for the city of Portage, has requested funds of the Redevelopment Commission to replace the HVAC system that has become outdated and needs to be replaced as a result of meeting its full lifespan. I will let the fire chief go on, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure it has to come out of the general fund of the Redevelopment Commission, as maintenance and repairs cannot be used from an allocation fund, which is why I provided the general fund summary. But I'll turn it over to the fire chief.
Thank you. Yeah, so like Dan had said, I remember in August we approached and asked if you would be so kind as to help fund the HVAC replacement. We did go in front of Board of Works on Tuesday. It was advised under the Board of Works that as a contingency on tonight's vote as to whether or not we could get the funding, as to whether or not they would approve the contract. So the contract was approved with Circle R contingent the funding. If we do not get the funding, then the contract dies, and we would have to start over. But I am hopeful that after talking to Dan about a week ago, that hopefully we can make something happen.
Chief, could you restate the amount again?
Yes, sir. It is $206,400.
Do we need to include the alternate?
So the alternate, I mean, we can include it. I'm certainly happy to tell you the price of the alternate. Our recommendation after review to the Board of Works was that we accepted the Circle R bid. The alternate bid was $260,807, or $870, I'm sorry.
I mean, the alternate add the 10,470 for the contingency.
Oh, okay.
But there was part of the 206.
It says total price, so I don't know if that, I'm assuming that that includes the contingency. Do you have the
Page 2, alternate add
Yeah.
contingency for incidentals and unforeseen issues, add 5% of total project, 10,470.
So I guess maybe that does not include the contingency.
Mr. Locke, you are correct.
So the total would be
Can you say that again?
$216,870.
To the camera.
What is the total again?
$216,870.
That's if there's any.
With the alternate.
And do you know, like, say we give approval, the time frame of doing all of this work?
Yeah, so as soon as we get the approval, it'll be a 30-day lead for them to make sure that all the equipment is gathered and ready to start working, make sure all their subs are ready to go. And so we have been in contact with them, just letting them know that the process is moving, just awaiting money.
And do you have an idea how long it'll take them to
And then they
install?
said 30 days from the time that they start, it'll be 30 days to completion.
Okay, so that puts us to,
January.
yeah, the beginning of December, they might have it wrapped up?
Yeah,
Were the air scrubbers added to that? quote?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, this is the new quote that had the air scrubbers included in it.
All right, and then looking at the general fund budget, I think there's some things we have to take into account. So my motion would be to approve the allocation of the funds for the contract for 216,870 contingent upon staff budget review to verify funds are in place.
Right.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, appreciate it.
One thought just on, and Chief, what we had talked about is from a cash flow perspective. If installed in December, that means typically the invoice would come in January or shortly thereafter, 30 days payment remittance. We'd be in January making the payment, which theoretically can go into next year's fiscal year. So that's why pending funding. So it may be an appropriation of the funds, half of it this year, and then the other half for next year. So
Very good.
we'll find the money.
All right, thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I have a question. Do you anticipate the other stations that would be in need of this kind of work in the near future?
So this was a very unique system when it was put in 2001. At the time the building was built, it was the largest building that we had built as a fire station. This type of HVAC system was not designed for a firehouse. So the system that we are having installed here is what is the same type of system that is currently installed at our central station. And our northern station is it's smaller, so it's more like a residence, and hopefully before too long that station gets replaced anyways. So we're not really concerned with that system as much. That system seems to work pretty well. It's more like I said, more like a residential furnace than a large commercial type furnace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dan, you kind of already mentioned the working session. We have consideration for the session on the library there. Was that already touched on, I think, in your staff report?
Yes, that was under staff report.
Okay. So we'll go to new business for
No,
Tom.
it's not.
Oh, it's not?
This is one that they have to decide which date they need to meet regarding Irving Street.
Right.
Then we're waiting on the library then. is
We're
that-
waiting on the library, correct?
I have dates, they're included in the packet.
Which dates were available, Sonia?
November 7th at 6 PM and November 14th. I went ahead and reserved the rooms ahead of time because they go fast, and you guys can decide which ones work.
I'm available just November 7th.
That should work for me too.
And you all don't have to be there, it's a working session. Correct. Right. The quorum is not required, so
No, it
it's
is
a
not.
working session for input.
Do we need to actually vote here on that, or is it just a matter of?
Well, you're going to vote on which day to hold it, and then based on availability, you go and do the work session if you're available, so, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
2, 3, 4.
It looks like we're all available
Yeah,
on the
you're
7th.
I'll make a motion to have the working session on November 7th.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sander.
So now we go to Mr. Cherry, construction inspection agreement for Central Avenue Phase 1B Structure Point. Oh, I guess it's not, Mr. Cherry. I should have known.
I apologize, I don't have it on. So what you have in your packet is a construction inspection contract with American Structure Point to perform construction inspection. That was loud, I'm so sorry. For what we sort of consider Phase 2 of the Central Avenue project. It is installing stormwater infrastructure, repaving the road, curbs, and things like that. From Brant Street to Peach Street, obviously taking out the bridge portion that's under construction now. The total contract amount is for $520,467.70. Now, keep in mind that this is covered by 80% of it will be covered by federal funds. So the Redevelopment Commission would only be seeing invoices for 80% of that. I'm sorry, 20% of that. Gosh, so sorry. Did y'all have any questions? This is a standard NDOT agreement. They actually did review it and have already approved it for the city to move forward with.
I think, Mr. Bowditch, as noted already, the amount of money involved is 80%, covered already. But
Right.
just so we talk about like the timing, when things are coming in, that should all work out fine
Right.
financially? Okay.
And this comes from the allocation funds. Those should be, the next distribution should be the 3rd to 4th week of December.
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we have Kelly Smith, consideration request for funding for pickleball flooring. Come on up. I don't know if everyone expected me to say that.
No. Hello. I'm Kelly Smith, by the way. I don't know if I've met all of you, but a pleasure to be here. I'm the new park director. I've been here a little over 2 months. With me, I have Hugh Harshberger. He is the executive director for Pickleball Partners. The City of Portage and the Portage Park Department has a very exciting opportunity to bring pickleball to our parks, particularly at Oakwood and Woodland Park. I think that pickleball, I don't want to say I think, pickleball is a rapidly growing sport. It is really taking over. It's something that's great for all ages. So I think I sent a little letter in there about that in their packet, what was provided. We did get a quote. What was the name? Seal?
American Seal Coating.
Yes, American Seal Coating. And we did negotiate a little on the price with him. So I believe that quote is in there as well. So we're here for your consideration to see if the RDC would be willing to help us get that up and running. I think that it's something that would bring a lot to the community, a lot of excitement to Woodland Park. I have the executive director here. If you have any questions or if you have a moment, he'll tell you a little bit about their what they do. They're a non-for-profit.
Hi. I'm used to talking to Parks Departments, so it's exciting to get to engage with the redevelopment committee like yourselves. Talk about redevelopment. Looking at that Oakwood Hall as a pickleball facility is truly a redevelopment for your committee. We've been able in Hobart and Lake Station to make remarkable progress building the pickleball community. We do it and, through different types of tournaments and open play, and we rent a couple of facilities that are similar to the Oakwood Hall. Oakwood, as you see the proposal, would have 4 inline courts. We presently manage 3 indoor courts at the Maria Reiner Senior Center in Hobart. We've been doing that for 3 years. The first year, we were able to put $26,000 back into the community. Year 256, this year we'll do over $100,000 in charities, you guys, and that's just from pickleball. Portage is one of the only communities that doesn't have any pickleball whatsoever, so I'm excited to, be here today to answer any questions that you have. And just to share with you, the intergenerational aspect of the sport is incredible. I don't know if any of you play, but my payoff developing, we started as Play It Forward Pickleball, which is an LLC that's had 3 birthdays and is solvent. And that's something to say for a small business. It's a struggle. Spinning off from that is the nonprofit. I'm no longer with Play It Forward Pickleball, executive director of the nonprofit. We came to Portage looking for a place to build our facility, and we were engaged by, of course, Kelly and Mr. Cherry, which led to, hey, look at this place at Woodland Park and see what you think about that. Our goal is, and our board's object is to build 4 other nonprofit pickleball facilities where they're just a charitable entity. You guys get the concept there. So to be able to work with you and partner and bring pickleball to Portage in the same respect that we're now doing it would be just a wonderful opportunity. The flooring that you're looking at, that proposal is, do you have any questions on it?
I do. I would like to know if this is approved and funded, is there going to be a cost for the residents of Portage to utilize it?
Yes. Yes. So we discussed several opportunities with Kelly in reference to how the parks would develop revenue for themselves and then still offer an exciting opportunity for Portage communities. So traditionally, what parks departments are doing in a pay-to-play environment is a small fee for an open play session, which is where multiple players show up at a given time, and they'll spend anywhere from $5 to $8 for a 2-hour increment. And then, of course, there's lessons, clinics, and special tournaments that are ran that the community has access to. That would be a decision for Kelly to make once the flooring is in. So we've discussed memberships through the park. What our goal is at Pickleball Partners is to offer a country club environment at local park prices. So we discussed some price points for membership today. And I can provide that to you. I sent it to
And that would all go before the park board as well, so,
Yeah.
the pricing.
And it's important to note, and I'm not trying to make a statement really one way or the other, but the idea that people pay to be in a league or be able to play like for a certain feature, that's not a unique, concept when it comes to park departments. That's actually how parks get revenue as such that money can be saved and put into other investments, either within the park, or within the city,
Lately, we've had that exact response, Mayor Bonanno, from the other parks departments that we've engaged. A lot of them have suffered from audits and so on and so forth that were very expensive and mandated by the state. They've used pickleball in certain areas to generate some income to support their parks department. We're really kind of excited that those that have are really taking their own residents into consideration as to how they disperse those fees.
Thank you.
Forgive me if I'm mistaken, but I think I recall someone mentioning something about the floors and people playing volleyball. Will the seal coating, will they still be able to play volleyball in those courts? Is that an issue, or has that been resolved?
So volleyball currently takes place about 4 weeks out of the year. It's something, I think that our Oakwood is truly underutilized. The flooring that was put in is in very poor condition. It's not conducive to sports. It doesn't bounce a ball, which is truly just mind-blowing that it was put in to begin with. I just don't quite understand something that's not conducive, that is truly an area that was meant to be some type of gym. I think that we would want to look at possibly the YMCA, because pickleball is something that is growing so fast that it will be like constant, and it'll keep people coming, it'll bring something to the community. I think that we can look at alternate locations potentially, but when volleyball takes, and I don't want to say that it's not important, because it is. I mean, all the sports that we want to offer to our community, and I think that Parks is really in a rebuilding zone right now. There's a lot that truly needs to go on with our parks. I think that we look at our beach courts that we have at Imagination Glen. I think we look at revitalizing a lot of things, but to provide this, I mean, I think we continue to grow, you know, and it's really, I feel like a lot of what I hear from Portage residents is we need something to do. And we want to provide that. And I think that the fact that you can go with your grandson or your daughter or whatever, I mean, I see it growing so rapidly, and I just think I want it for our residents. But I would think the YMCA would be a great alternate location.
We do at the three indoor courts in Holbert during the indoor season. We use an app, Team Reach. It's a free app you can download from Google. Use code 46342, the zip code in Holbert, and you can get in and you can see what the play history is. On 3 courts, 2 open play sessions a day booked. So we don't even start open play till October 18th there, and you can go on there today and you can see that those sessions are booked. The leagues that we just opened up this year are booked. We opened up day before yesterday. They're booked. You can check that out through Team Reach.
Mm-hmm. And I think I want to say one more thing. When I spoke to pickleball partners, I told them the importance of the parks to bring things to our communities, such as the events that we host, like our craft show, to still utilize that area for things that are important that our community looks forward to, like our Christmas craft show, our spring craft show. Like, we still want to provide that for our residents, but we also want to provide something that's really going to give them the ability to engage and enjoy and really bring people to Woodland. So,
One of the big goals we have for our park department, just wearing my other hat, you know, as mayor, as if I'm not mayor right now, but, you know, speaking, is to become, have a park system that is self-funded. Right now, a great deal of the park is really coming in through, you'll see it, Penny, with the budget. You know, we have to keep the parks going with general fund, you know, otherwise general fund money, you know, how we're going to be able to take care of issues there. Other communities, and I'm not saying it like, oh, other people do it. No, I mean, like, it's like the lesson to learn is we need to figure out how to generate enough revenue in the parks that they ultimately take care of themselves. And I think that that's what's being, you know, pursued here, you know?
Well said, Mayor. I couldn't agree with you more. To, you know, under-promise and over-deliver is our motto. And I think that if you do consider appropriating the money to convert that floor, that you're going to see the revenue necessary to continue your Parks Department in the manner in which you probably haven't in a long time. So, yeah. I have. We talked about it this morning. It's interesting. I didn't know if that was still part of your portfolio, and we discussed it this morning in our meeting.
We would like to add outdoor courts as well in the future, and we're looking at reapplying for our park bond. So there are a number of improvements that we want to make park-related. But I think that if you look at the way Oakwood is currently utilized and the revenue that it creates for parks, and like the mayor mentioned, becoming self-sustainable is truly a long-term goal of mine. Like, I have a number of short-term goals, but that would be like the holy grail. You know, I mean, you look at Valpo Parks Department, and they probably, like $4 million a year. I think that we can absolutely compete with them, and we can provide for our community and grow and really put Portage on the map. It's my goal. Thank you.
The nice thing about converting that over also is that it would be a very unique indoor climate-controlled destination for pickleball players, you guys. There's a place in Crown Point, Pickle Time, they're exploring opening in another location, and then there's one that just opened in Hammond with 12 courts, and that's a full-blown bar, a complete different aspect than what we're looking to do. with Portage, which is make it more of a family destination. The, you know, the uniqueness of it is that these places are being built so fast with little consideration on the end user. So the play area around the courts is restricted down to just 2 or 3 feet between the sidelines and so on and so forth. With the 9,600 square feet that you have there, 4 inline courts would have an 8-foot border completely around them, which means it would be qualified for some sanctioned events and things that we could eventually bring hundreds of people a week to that park. And from the very beginning of the installation of that floor, you're going to see hundreds of people coming in and out of that park. So I don't know.
Has this already gone before the park board for approval?
No, we don't. We're trying to secure the funding first to see if that's even an option, so it's not gone to that level, not as of yet.
And then as far as funding, we allocated, I believe, $75,000 to the parks at the beginning of this year. Is that still
I can speak on
not
that.
used?
The painting has begun at Woodland Park. They started painting September, doing the remainder of the painting the last week of October. So that is complete. That was around $11,000. The carpet, we just got the down payment for that. The carpet installation will take place the week of Thanksgiving. That was around $35,000. I don't believe that we have anything else earmarked at this time. We're just mainly doing paint and carpet, so we have not used all of that funding, to answer your question.
I have a question about maintenance. What experience do you have in terms of maintenance of the Holbert Lake Station facilities that have
The
that?
entire time that I've been there, I worked closely with Martin Larrea, the owner of American Seal Coating, to install 27 courts, outdoor, 6 indoor. So the maintenance is pretty light once you get the polyurethane final coating on it. You know, you have to keep it swept and mopped. If it is an outdoor facility, sometimes we're putting them on a very fresh, a brand new surface. Sometimes we're repurposing a 50-year-old surface. So, you know, those determine what type of maintenance is required. Lake Station recently went through, theirs was installed 2 years ago. A lot of the cracks and stuff came back up because, again, it's a 50-year-old repurposed tennis court. So we went through a reparation process with that.
I think you're mainly talking about the indoor facility right now as far as maintenance is concerned, so let's
Yeah.
focus on that.
Easy because of the polyurethane coating, yeah. Very simple, must be kept swept, mopped. The idea of the product itself carries a 10-year warranty. And usually indoor, it's gonna go a little bit longer because we don't have the weather elements and stuff that tear it up.
So just based off the
Thank you.
budget numbers, you're just looking for an allocation of additional $7,000 to the budget to provide for the pickleball court, correct?
So to use the remainder of the 75 that the RDC initially presented, and then the remainder, is that what you're asking?
Correct.
That would be adequate, yes, thank you.
Mr. Cherry? I just feel the need to announce who's walking up.
So an additional 6,500 is what you're looking for.
I'm sorry, I truly hadn't calculated the math, to be honest. And
Greg, you are right.
Well,
Just based off the.
thank you for the calculation. No, I'm sorry, I did not do those calculations. And initially, when the request was made, I'll be honest, and I'm a little new to parks. To give you a little background, I spent 18 years in public works, so this is a little different for me to create revenue and such and that. It was just what your budget was what it was. But anyhow, all that to be said, it was suggested that I approach the RDC for the funds to do this, to redevelop and to bring that life to Woodland. So that's why I'm here. Whatever you best see fit, if you so choose to take action, works for us. We just want to see it come to our parks, so.
And Dan, this would be from the allocation side.
Yes. When would the work be done again for the improvements?
Yes, we have a time frame for that. Just in case, we wanted to block out, because obviously rentals and such as that, but we allocated January 1st, after the first of the year. We blocked some time, and then it would be like maybe a 2-week process, 10 days, 2 weeks.
But it would occur after January 1st in 2025.
That's correct.
Right.
So if a motion was possibly made, not to increase the funds that was already allocated to the parks from $75,000, not to exceed $10,000, that would be sufficient to pay for the pickleball court as well as these 2 ongoing projects.
We had some engineering for the ADA as well. Do you remember what that was for that remodel?
I'm unaware.
Yeah, there was some, I'm sorry, should I come up?
Yeah, Tom, if you'd like to come up, just, it's good information, so it's probably good that we record it.
And while Tom's coming up, the 75,000 that is granted to the parks, I believe that's done annually. So they can use their funds from this year, and then their next appropriation for next year would come out of that $75,000. So really, you don't have to increase it. You would just say, use the
almost like
funds that
a-
you have available in your grant from the Redevelopment Commission, and then next year, when the subsequent grant occurs, you would take it out of there.
But wouldn't we have to allocate that money before they sign the contract?
Because we'd be spending that prior to the end of the year.
That's really a legalistic question, and I'm looking over to our attorney, because,
Well,
I guess in my own brain, I'm wondering.
In order to get the work started, if it has to be, the typical rule for financing is, Dan knows exactly where this is headed. If it's going to start the work now, it would be a fiscal year 2024 appropriation allocation, however you want to say it, so.
In my
Yes,
mind-
we would have to increase the funding for this year to get it started to sign the contract,
Is there a way to?
Then technically understanding that next year, whatever it is.
Well,
short.
I guess I'm wondering is if it were to, not that I'm trying to go down, but if we know we're going to use that money, if we brought it down next year but brought it up this year,
Right.
it's really like giving them an advance on what they already have coming in next year. I guess that's why I'm very comfortable with it. I just want to make sure that legally that makes as much sense as it just sounded
Well,
in my
yeah,
head.
then the motion is to increase by the amount that is needed right now, and then we all keep that in mind, and then the grant to the park department next year is
That much less.
75,000 minus what was appropriated this year. That way, it's all available upfront, tying the project to the fiscal year in which the project's going to occur.
That way we've appropriated it now. But again, it's just like we were talking earlier about when is the bill actually coming in?
Right.
But for it to get started, we have to appropriate it now.
The flooring and whatever engineering, let's say it's
We had,
5,000.
we had an ADA study done by our city engineering, and the cost of that was approximately $5,000
So-
for that remodel.
So if we allocate an additional $15,000, that would be
Correct.
sufficient.
Right.
So then would the motion just be to allocate an additional $15,000 into this year's equipment grant? Mr. Bowditch.
Correct. That would be correct.
And then if, at that point in time, it would be contingent, on the park board's approval and all that stuff.
And then next year's grant would be the 75 minus the 15, so it would be 60.
60.
So I'll make a motion to approve $15,000 additional into the park equipment grant.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have consideration from Mr. Bowditch, GIS support and equipment rental from Abbenmarsh.
So this is in your packets was equipment rental for the purposes of implementing the GIS program once again, in order to bring that up to speed and up to the current date, and would support the use of the funds for the purchase of the equipment.
Are there any questions on that?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Sandy McDaniel, award of right-of-way clearing on Central Avenue, Phase 2. I was wondering if it was going to be Tom this time. No.
Couldn't sucker him into it. So in your packet, you have quotes that we received for right-of-way clearing for our second phase of Central Avenue. And this would be a hard decision to make because they both came in at the same amount, but one failed to meet the 12 o'clock or the noon deadline. So that makes me think that we should move forward with the one that followed the directions. So it is the department's recommendation to move forward with the stump man for clearing the right-of-way along Central Avenue for $25,000.
Are either of those two companies a Portage company?
I pulled everybody's, yeah, they're actually on McCool Road, but I only requested quotes from people that were licensed in the city of Portage and that were in close vicinity to the city of Portage. But yes, the stump man is located on McCool Road here in Portage.
I'll make a motion to approve the stump man.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
We have consideration RDC property usage agreement. Mr. Bartnicki?
Yes. Last month it was brought to my attention that a local citizen has a history of entering into contracts with the RDC to perform certain activities on RDC-owned land. I have reviewed the contract that was provided, and there is no legal objection, so I'm recommending approval of the contract from the citizen for use of RDC land.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have consideration transfer of parcels for library garden.
This is a little bit longer of a story. Some of you may recall that a few months ago, staff, we worked together to help make sure that some federal funding went through on the library garden. That all happened. Everything's great. We're now at the point where it's time to transfer the parcels from the city, and that's important to note, to the library system. So I just wanted to make a comment here that the past involvement of the RDC was simply as a funding mechanism, and so the RDC was, I don't want to say the words on the hook, but I can't think of a better term right now. The RDC was providing a lot of funding for the overall project. That is why RDC staff was engaged to assist in making sure that the federal funding went through. However, the MOU for the library project is between City of Portage and the Porter County Public Library System. So The RDC does not, nor should not, in my legal opinion, take any action on transferring the parcels, but staff, we've discussed, we will help other city staff make the transfer possible, and so I just wanted to let everybody know that staff is going to work outside of meetings to make sure that the proper city entity takes any action necessary to transfer the parcels. So more like a report than a consideration, but just bringing everybody up to speed on the current state of there's 5 parcels that will be transferred eventually.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
And it's good to know the full and
Yeah.
accurate account. Yeah.
Just thought it'd be good to let everybody know.
So now we go on to consideration for Northwest Properties Partnership donation of land. 1, Mr. Rathjen, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mayor?
I'm good.
Commissioners, good afternoon. Okay, item 8.7 first, we have an organization in the city of Portage, Ameriplex Northwest Partners, that has offered to donate a 5.28 acre parcel of land that is not usable for their needs. It's down on the north end of 249 northeast intersection, not sure the name of the road, but it's the one that goes into U.S. Steel. You already own, you being the RDC, already owns a parcel of land behind it, so putting the two pieces together would make it a usable land. My recommendation, as is in your packet, is that you agree to accept this donation from them, and I will handle on your behalf getting title work and so forth on the property and doing some due diligence on it. So,
I'll make a motion to accept the donation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
thank you.
We
will
go
move.
to 8.8, consideration downtown parcel acquisition.
Okay, and if I may, Mayor, I'd like to interject something that's going to impact the next 3 items.
Of course.
We've talked about this in earlier meetings. Under the new real estate laws in the state of Indiana, we are required as brokers to get buyer agency agreements when we're representing a buyer. In most cases, I'm representing you as a seller. We have a listing contract for that. Buyer agency agreement means I can represent you as to acquire a property. We don't have that agreement in place. I put a generic one together for the board. I sent it over to Attorney Barnicki a few weeks ago for his review. And in order for us to execute items 8.8, 8.9, and 8.10, we would have to have this agreement signed. So kind of slipping it in ahead of these 3 items. Mr. Barnicki?
And yes, as Bill stated, I did have a chance. There's no legal objection, and I would recommend, approval of the agreement per the new terms of how we have to handle brokerage agreements. So no objection whatsoever. Look good.
So moved.
So we've got a so moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a so moved and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank
Guess
you.
it's just a motion. I don't have to reference how it was made.
It was handled very smoothly, so it's
Yeah.
like good to recognize that, yeah.
It was
Okay.
until we started talking about it. Anyway,
Now, moving on to items 8.8. We have an opportunity, the RDC has an opportunity to acquire 3 adjoining non-adjoining lots in the downtown area to support your downtown redevelopment plan that you have for the future. As you know, the city owns a considerable amount of property in the downtown area, but there's bits and pieces that you do not own. There are 3 lots that the current owner may be willing to sell at this point. We'd have to enter into negotiations with them. I'm asking for permission to do that with the owners and also to fund the appraisals that we will need to follow the IC Code 36 if we're successful in getting to a negotiated price with them.
And that total is at $12,000?
Not to exceed, yeah. I did not get quotes for them particular ones, but they are 3 separate non-adjoining parcels, so we may have to appraise those as 3 separate ones. If we can do them together, they'd be much cheaper, but I'll work with Attorney Barnicki and stuff and making sure we're doing that correctly.
Would this be 2 motions or 1 motion? So I'll make a motion to approve the discussions with acquisition and funding of not to exceed $12,000 for appraisals.
Yes.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh,
Not opposed, I don't vote, but can you briefly describe the benefits of acquiring these
speaking just from,
properties?
well, I guess everything's an opinion, but speaking on my opinion, it's the opportunity to actually restore, reshape, revitalize our mall. I mean, I grew up with the Portage Mall on both sides. You know, you had the stuff, and without going into all the history of what happened, I mean, I think I was either 16 or 17 when they tore that all down, and I don't know what was expected to happen after all that was torn down and the mall was rearranged, but I think what we've seen for a long time since is not a great deal of development there. Now, recently, we've had a lot of positive changes, the addition of businesses like the Painted Apple, the Social Goat. I'm not trying to do ads, you know, we've got a dance studio that opened up there. It's just to say that the mall, I think, is ready for a comeback, and I think that the question for the RDC is, what can we do to make that comeback strong and soon, you know? And part of that could be clearing up the messy property ownership situation in parts within and around.
What are the addresses of the parcels?
What are the addresses of the parcels?
They're in your packet there. They don't, because they're vacant land, I don't think they have addresses. But the parcel cards are all in your packet there. They do not have addresses,
All right, thank you.
to be determined. But the picture, the aerial view of it is on there as well. The second aerial view are in the yellow. I think yours are in color, I hope they are. Those are parcels that you already own, just so you can see where these kind of fit in.
Oh, I see.
Right. So you can see that,
Oh, they're black, I'm sorry.
It's basically a lot near the Lily
no, you
Field
go to the next page, I believe.
and 2 lots
It's worse.
where the old
That's worse?
Portage Library
It
used to
didn't scan well.
Yeah, I can probably show these better. Get mine are blue, so blue ones are the ones that we want to acquire.
So in general, Mayor, the benefit is that one of the parcels completes full ownership of a block by the Redevelopment Commission. Another part, the other two parcels, one of the remaining 2 parcels fills in a donut hole in the middle. And the third parcel at the Portage Mall is adjacent to the existing property owned by the Redevelopment Commission. So it's putting the pieces together so that, as the mayor stated, we can consolidate parcels for redevelopment.
Thank you.
So that gets us to, speaking of consolidating parcels for redevelopment, that gets us to parcel acquisition north side.
Thank you, Mayor. Same situation here. This is north of the waterway. There's 10 parcels owned by a trust that total a little over 48 acres. We've talked with this trust on several occasions. They are represented by another broker. Dan stole my mic. We have talked with this broker on several occasions, and they have expressed the possibility that they would sell all 10 in one package. They don't want to sell them individually. In your packet, there's also a very similar map that if it's in black and white, it's going to be hard for you to see. But they're all adjoining to your current RDC holdings that are north of the waterway and south of the port property. If that makes sense. So my suggestion on this one is the same, or my recommendation on this one is the same, that you authorize us to begin negotiations with them on all 10 of these parcels as one, and to authorize the money to do the appraisals. Now, this is a much bigger piece of land, 48 acres, and you're saying, well, how come it's only 12 grand to appraise those? I had this one actually quoted, and it's because we are appraising them as one property. So, and I do have these quoted already. I have 3 quotes, and we're well under the 12, quite frankly.
So that's where, going back to really what does the redevelopment commission do? I mean, in Indiana, with the flexibility of the state's laws, so to speak, you can do a lot, but at the core of it, what is a redevelopment commission? It's to fix issues that get in the way of economic and community development. And one of those big issues is that parcel disconnect. So the land up there is probably the most strategic piece of property in northwest Indiana, but it's so tied up with these different parcels, it's very hard for any one entity to make use of them. So the Redevelopment Commission has the opportunity to look at them and tie them together with the existing pieces we own, and then that can allow us to actually, and that's where the R is, the redevelopment of this land, you know? So I think that this is very appropriate for us to consider, and I appreciate you bringing this to our attention.
Correct. And there's no guarantee that we can get this done. I want everyone to be aware of that. This is, what we're asking for is the authorization to begin negotiating with them. And of course, once we get to a final price, you would have to bring that back to the board for approval and signatures. So everything would be contingent on the time, but we need to start discussions with them.
I will make a motion to begin discussions with them.
Is there a figure of the appraisals? I don't see it on here.
Yeah, the actual appraisals came in at 9,500. I have 12,000 down there, but
I will amend my motion to approve discussions with an appraisal value of up to 9,500.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 thank you.
And then we have the parcel acquisition for Ponica.
Correct. My last one, same issue with this one. This is a very small parcel of land up by where the Port Authority owns property on the west side of the ditch at that area. Same thing, authorize that we actually start making her a formal offer. I've asked for the not to exceed of 4,000 for appraisals, but this is going to be a very small parcel consistent with what we did at the Busey property, and I'm not convinced that we need the appraisals. But it would probably be safe at this point to authorize the money if we need to, and only if needed with the counsel by the attorney.
Yeah, so it's just, there's an exception where for very low value properties, appraisals are not necessarily needed, and we actually were able to execute a purchase earlier this year, you may recall. So I would say a motion would be to explore purchase with a not to exceed value of $4,000 for an appraisal if deemed necessary.
I have a question about the appraisers. Since it sounds as if we're going to need various locations to be worked on in terms of appraisers, do they give you a different amount because there's so many? Would you get a special discount? I mean, just a thought.
That's kind of what I think that Bill was mentioning in the previous one, where because it's all being done as one, it's a lower cost. But in this case, though, we don't know if we're going to even need an appraisal because it's so small. So it's really more of like a contingency so that if there's a need for an appraisal, he doesn't have to come back to us for it, because odds are it's going to be that price or smaller, you know?
And if the timing is right on all those, that all the appraisals can be done at the same time, yes, we'll get a better price. I'm just not sure the timing's going to be the same for all of these.
One property owner might be like right away working with Bill. The other might need some time to be convinced. So depending on if they're all at the same time, then you can do just that. So it's a really good point. And it can happen. It's just not necessarily a given that they'll all get appraised at the same time.
Same appraiser?
That really depends. We have quotes from 3 of them. We only need 2. So some of them are higher on one and lower on the other. So we'll use the best one. That's why I like the not to exceed number. We'll use the best quote that we get at that time for the professional service.
And for the commissioner's purposes also, when you one of the questions you're asking is if you have a number of parcels that need an appraisal for or a survey. When you're doing the survey work, in some instances, or the appraisal, you don't get a discount is difficult, especially in survey work, because there might be in different markets, there may be different data collection, comparable data, but if they're consolidated within a reasonable proximity, that's where the discount tends to be realized. So you can't have a parcel on the south side of Portage and then have one on the north side and assume that you're going to get a discount on it, because they have to do two separate types of data collection.
I'll make a motion to request authorization to begin the purchase of that property with a not to exceed of $4,000 for appraisals if they are necessary.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
We have approval for early voting at 6100 Southport Road. If you remember, we had an issue earlier this year where the Southport Road site became a polling place, and then retroactively we approved that. It's not quite clear on me if that needs to be done again, but polling places are, I'm just going to say for better or worse, they got to be the whole election cycle. It wasn't quite clear if this had to be approved again for this cycle on our part, and so I think that was why it was appropriate to put in the agenda here.
No, it is, and in thinking about this further, a commissioner may want to move that the RDC continue to grant permission to the county to utilize the common area of 6100 Southport as an early voting site. I mean, a commissioner may want to move that.
I don't think that building's a good place to do any kind of political activity.
I honestly can't stress enough that I agree, and that we ended up in the situation essentially because there was a miscommunication earlier in the year, which led to them making it a voting site. And so the trick is that we don't really have the ability to kick it out now, because that creates a lot of disruptions. So I think the question that we have essentially is, can we get through this year? And then I think to your point, if we wanted that to happen again, we could authorize it in the future. But I mean, I can tell you, I don't think that it's my preferred spot at all, to be an early voting site in the future,
And then in the spring, the primary season, they're putting signs all over the place, and
We're dealing with that again, and that's something where I've been in contact with different people to make sure that those signs get moved, because I had a couple of candidates reach out to me, which is really nice, saying, hey, we're just making sure, like, we're supposed to put those signs over here, right? I'm like, yes, that is the understanding, that's the rules. But yeah, simply put, I mean, I think that based on the fact that it's a site right now, we want to honor the fact that people are voting there, but I think that in the future, we want to exercise our right not to make it a polling place and make that clear ahead of time. There's no elections at all next year. In Indiana, every 4 years, there's a year with no elections, and 2025 is the next one of those. So that gives us the ability to, I would say, by the end of this year, communicate that we're not interested in that being a site again.
so I would make a motion just to approve 6100 Southport Road as an early voting site just for this election cycle, period.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can't tell you how much I'm not a huge fan of that either. It's just, and again, we're not the only government entity that had to deal with this, but I think that we can make sure that that's not an issue again.
So who makes a determination in terms of numbers and how many people actually come and vote there?
So it was extremely low in the primary. It might be higher this time in the general, but just to explain the miscommunication, earlier in the year, we were reached out to by the county election board and said with an interest in that being the site. And we took them and showed that. And again, this might be a case of memory, how people take it, but my memory of it is I said, well, if you guys are really interested, please let me know. We can probably make that work. That, having already talked to some of the people, well, all of the entities that are renting the site from us currently, that was taken as they were good to do it. And so then in either April or May, people started getting notices that it was an early voting site, which is why we as a board, rather than creating a big panic problem, we approved it. But that said, the experience of it being a early voting site from a landlord and tenant standpoint has not really been ideal. And so, that said, we understand the importance of having a voting site being the same as the primary as the general, but I would say that come the 2026 elections, it's very important that, we make clear that we're not well, again, speaking just as one person, but going by the experience, I would lean towards us come 2026, make clear that we are not interested in it being a early voting site or a general election site, what have you. Not because we don't want an early voting site on our north side. I think that's a really good idea. It's just that particular building has not seemingly worked out. Maybe it'll change. Maybe everyone will be really happy by election day this year and we all say, wow, but that wouldn't be my guess. That's what's going to happen. Yes, Mr. Bowditch.
Mayor, would it be for consideration that a letter or some type of communication in written form be sent to the Board of Election notifying them that future or subsequent elections of the 2024 general election will not be entertained at 6100 Southport?
I think that that'd be really appropriate if that's something staff could write up. And I also, and I've said this before, I was shocked to find out that, I guess I just assumed, having never been involved in this sort of thing before, I would have thought that a polling place that's not a government building of the counties would have to be like, have some sort of contract. Like I would have assumed if like a church is being used as a polling place or a hotel is being used as a polling place, I guess I just assumed that there would be some sort of written contract that would have to be signed first. And the lack of any such contract being sent to us is why I initially thought the county had moved on and wasn't interested in doing that site as a polling place. I think it might have been Bill or Andy. Someone in this room gave me a call to let me know that it was an early voting place, and I was definitely surprised.
We'll get that drafted.
Yeah, that gets us to, speaking of 6100 Southport Road, the maintenance.
Well, I'm going to make this real easy. I don't have all the information as far as estimates yet, so I'll probably just continue this to the next meeting. It's going to be basically, when we did the remodel back in the day on that building, we included some amenities that are typically not seen in a rental, an office rental setting, as far as something that we would have supplied, but we did. So we're going to have a choice of, when I have the figures, of either replacing or repairing those or not providing those. So we'll have that, I'll have that information for you next month. So,
Well, thank you so much.
so I don't know
Thanks,
if we
Tom.
need a motion for that or.
I think we're just eagerly waiting. So we've got other business the commission deems necessary. I believe we've got one guest here today. Oh,
And one other thing.
and one other thing. Mr. Bowditch, did you want to go first?
Just very quickly, if I may. So it was brought to my attention today that an individual who owns property within the Portage Mall area, I believe it was 2550 Portage Mall, Joseph A. Mann, is considering the sale of that property. Not for purchase by the Redevelopment Commission. I'm not making that recommendation. But it was brought to our attention through the title search that there is an outstanding promissory note of $75,000. And so Sonia and I printed out the documentation and provided the file to Attorney Bartnicki to review, because in order to have the property disposed of and sold, that lien needs to be, or that promissory note needs to be released as paid. So we're going to look into and determine if that $75,000 was paid. Now, the agreement states that the grantee of a facade grant program, that's why the $75,000 was loaned. It gets a little bit complex. The Portage, at the time in 2006, I believe it was 2008, the Portage Downtown Development Corporation made recommendations to the city council. The city council then took the applications and approved the facade grants, but they were paid for from a pledge of general or tax increment funds to be repaid. And it says the grantee, meaning Mr. Mann, shall sign a promissory note, which they did, and a mortgage requiring repayment of the loan upon transfer of the subject real property or cessation of business operations and within 60 days. So if he's going to sell it, we have to make sure he's either paid it off or paid it not to release that lien. So there is a potential for a PSP, property sale proceeds of $75,000 coming into the general fund, if our research and due diligence shows.
Well, thank you for putting the effort in and
Yeah.
finding that.
So thank you to Sonia who poured it on, and we'll get all the, like I said, the file was given to Attorney Bartnicki, and if, once it's paid, that lien should be released.
Maybe the slogan for this board should be, "We always get our cut," or something like that.
Exactly. That's all I wanted to bring up, just.
We
on your-
appreciate it. I know we've got a guest in the back. Did you want to come up? Or maybe just introduce yourself and maybe just explain what you were looking for, and then we probably won't bring it into the discussion in the meeting, but maybe I could use that as a way to introduce you to Mr. Bartnicki or Mr. Bowditch, you know. Sure thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm Katie Boots. I just have a project for school or for college that I wanted to do. And basically what the project was just kind of trying to find something in the community that is like an economic development, I guess. So something that can contribute to the community and have an economic impact too. And I know we talked about doing the Portage Mall, like you were saying, like the revitalization of it. So I just wanted to ask some questions with that. But
Yeah, I just think it's always great when people have projects like this and we want to be a resource for the community. I wasn't sure if you had any questions for us, or any feedback, we'd be happy to help. And please note that's true with anybody as long as you have a, I guess, real assignment going on.
yeah.
Don't want like a catch me if you can kind of situation.
Did you want me to ask some questions or do you want?
Well, that's
should I
entirely up
do
to you.
that
Like I
later?
say, whatever, if you'd like to ask members of the board, we're happy to. Technically, we can't all gather in one group and talk to you because that'd be a violation of the open door rule. But you're free to talk to us all, like individually after the meeting. Or if you want, you could just talk to myself or Mr. Bowditch or
I can do
Bartnicki.
it after. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, that'll work. Well, it's great to see you, and
Thank you.
thanks for coming in.
What? Oh, B-O-O-T-S.
I just felt like if we all wanted to like help or give any like, feedback and we were all in the same place, it'd be the weirdest violation of the open door law you've
Yeah,
ever
right.
heard of, Thank you so much. If there's no other business to come before the board, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you, guys.